There is a kind of power that exists only because no one has bothered to take it back yet. It sits in a corner office on the 14th floor. It wears expensive suits. It signs its name at the bottom of memos nobody asked for, and calls that leadership. Marcus Reed had that kind of power. He had held his position as regional manager of Whitmore Financial's downtown branch for 6 years. 6 years of being the largest person in every room he walked into. 6 years of performance reviews that always said, results-driven and decisive, and never said what the people beneath him said to each other, quietly in the break room when they were certain he wasn't listening. On a Tuesday morning in March, Marcus made a decision that took less than 45 seconds. He didn't think twice about it. He never thought twice about anything. That was always his greatest weakness, dressed up for 6 years as his greatest strength. The woman he fired that morning was carrying a mop. What he did not know, what he could not have imagined, because imagining it would have required a kind of humility he had never once practiced, was that she also owned the building. Stay with me, because what happened next, what happened in a boardroom at 2:30 that same afternoon, is the kind of story that changes how you see every quiet person who has ever been overlooked in a room. The morning started the way it always did. At Whitmore Financial's downtown branch, security badges at the lobby, elevator small talk, the particular smell of recycled air, and ambition that every corporate office carries like a signature. By 7:45, the cleaning staff had already been there for 2 hours. They always were. They arrived before the suits, and they stayed after them too. They straightened the chairs in conference rooms that would be disheveled again within the hour. They restocked the bathrooms with paper towels that would be gone by noon. They wiped the glass on the lobby doors that 30 sets of hands would press against. Before 9 a.m., nobody noticed. That was, of course, the point. Good cleaning staff are invisible, not because they don't matter, but because in offices like this one, the people who matter most have long since decided that some work is worth seeing, and some work simply isn't. The woman in the cleaning uniform had arrived at 6:15. She signed in under the name the temp agency had given her. She collected her cart from the supply room. She moved through the 14th floor, the way someone moves when they are paying very close attention to everything around them, while appearing to pay attention to nothing at all. She noted the way the morning receptionist greeted every person who came through, warm to some, barely present for others, calibrating her energy based on what she understood the hierarchy to be. She noted the way the sales team arrived in clusters already performing for each other before the day had even started. She noted the way the junior analysts moved around the edges of open spaces, as if they had learned through trial and error exactly how much room they were allowed to take up. She noted all of it, quietly, without expression. She had been doing this for 3 weeks at 4 different branches. This was the last one. Her name was not on any of the plaques in the lobby downstairs. It wasn't on any of the awards mounted on the conference room walls, but it was on the deed to the building, on the founding documents of the venture capital firm that owned 62% of Whitmore Financial. On the original business plan, handwritten in a notebook, she still kept in her desk. The real desk, not this cart, dated 11 years ago, when she had started this company, from a 2-room office, with no clients and no reputation, and nothing to rely on, except an understanding of finance that most people in this building would not have been able to match. Her name was Diana Whitmore, and on this particular Tuesday morning, she was buffing the floor outside Marcus Reed's office when he walked out and looked down at her the way some people look at things they do not consider worth looking at. Marcus was already in a difficult mood. The quarterly numbers were close, but not where he needed them to be. His boss had sent an email at 6 a.m., the kind of email that doesn't say anything directly but manages to say everything through what it leaves out. He had a presentation at 2:30, and he had not finished the third slide. He walked out of his office at 8:14, and his foot caught the edge of the wet floor Diana had just finished. He didn't fall. He caught himself on the doorframe, but his coffee tilted in his hand, and a small amount of it landed on the sleeve of his jacket. He looked down at the sleeve. He looked at the floor. He looked at Diana. What happened next took 43 seconds. He counted them afterward, in his head, convinced that the speed of the decision was evidence of its correctness. Who authorized you to mop this floor at this hour? Diana looked up at him. She said nothing. I'm talking to you. This is a working environment. People walk through here. You cannot have a wet floor during business hours. Where is your supervisor? I was nearly finished, she said. Her voice was even, unhurried, the voice of someone who was not afraid. Something about that voice made Marcus angrier. That's not an answer. Do you know what an inconvenience this is? I have an important morning, and you are standing here with a wet floor and no wet floor sign, and no concern whatsoever for the people who actually work here. The people who actually work here. 2 junior analysts had stopped walking. They were pretending to look at their phones. The morning receptionist had gone very still at her desk. Diana remained where she was, calm, watching him. I'll note your concern, she said. You'll do more than note it, Marcus said. His voice had reached the register. It always reached. When he was performing for an audience, he pretended not to notice. He pulled out his phone, called the temp agency number he had in his contacts. He'd used it before for exactly this. This is Marcus Reed, Regional Manager at Whitmore Financial. I need to report an incident involving one of your staff members. She's created a safety hazard during business hours, and I'm requesting she be removed from this placement immediately, effective now. She is not to return to this building. He hung up. He looked at Diana. Security will be here in 5 minutes. Please have your things ready. Diana looked at him for a long moment, not with anger, not with tears, not with the particular collapse of expression that Marcus had seen before when he had done this to other people, the moment when they understand that he has the power here and they do not. She looked at him the way someone looks at a small problem they have already decided how to solve. I'll be ready, she said, and she was. She walked her cart back to the supply room. She signed out at the security desk. She went to her car, and she drove 14 blocks to the Whitmore Financial Headquarters building, the one with her name on the deed, where her driver was already waiting, with her briefcase, her laptop, and the blazer she had left in the back seat that morning, when she had decided, for the last time, to see this particular branch, the way its employees saw it every day. Let me stop here for a moment, because I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking this is satisfying, because Marcus is about to get what he deserves. And you're right, but I want you to notice something. Before we get there, Diana could have stopped this. At any point, the moment he walked out of that office, she could have said her name, 2 words, and everything would have changed instantly. She didn't, not because she was afraid, not because she didn't know what he would do. She didn't because she had already learned everything she needed to know about Marcus Reed. In 3 weeks at 4 different branches, Diana had seen many things. She had seen managers who greeted the cleaning staff by name, who held the elevator, who said thank you for things they could have said nothing for. And she had seen managers like Marcus, men and women who performed authority instead of practicing it, whose confidence lived entirely in the gap between their title and the people below it. She had seen Marcus's HR file, which she had reviewed before she ever set foot on the 14th floor. 17 grievances in 6 years, 11 from people who no longer worked there. She had already made her decision before the coffee spilled. The wet floor was simply the last piece of evidence she needed to see confirmed. Power is not something you are given and then keep forever. It is something extended to you on the condition that you use it in a way that earns it. Marcus had forgotten that. He was about to be reminded. The 2:30 boardroom meeting had been on the calendar for 6 weeks. Marcus had prepared his slides. He had a new suit on, a replacement for the one the coffee had marked that morning. He had told the story of the cleaner to 3 of his colleagues before lunch, and each time he told it, it became slightly more triumphant, the smudge slightly larger, his response slightly more necessary. He walked into the boardroom. 228. 6 people were already seated. 2 members of the Regional Oversight Committee, his direct supervisor, Patricia, the head of HR, the company's general counsel, and at the head of the table, in the chair that was always left empty, at these branch presentations, Diana Whitmore. Marcus stopped in the doorway. His mind ran the image twice, the way a computer runs a file. It doesn't recognize, trying to process it, failing, running it again. She was wearing a dark blazer. Her hair was no longer under a cap. Her hands were folded on the table, in front of a nameplate that reads simply, D. Whitmore, founder. She looked at him. Same eyes, same calm, the same expression she had worn, standing in the hallway with a mop at 8:14 that morning. Mr. Reed, she said, please come in and sit down. He sat. He did not know what else to do. I'll be running today's meeting, Diana said. I've been conducting a culture audit of 4 of our branches over the past 3 weeks. This was the last one. I've completed my assessment. She opened the folder in front of her. Over the course of this audit, I've observed hiring practices, internal communication patterns, client interactions, and, most importantly, the way leadership treats the people at every level of this organization. She paused. This morning at 8:14, a regional manager at this branch terminated a temporary cleaning staff member. The stated reason was a wet floor during business hours. The actual reason, based on the behavior I observed directly, was a public performance of authority at the expense of someone this manager assumed had no recourse and no power. The room was completely still. I was that cleaning staff member. Marcus opened his mouth. Mr. Reed. Her voice was not raised. It didn't need to be. I'll ask you not to speak until I've finished. He closed his mouth. In the 6 years you have held the regional manager position at this branch, 17 formal grievances have been filed against you by members of your team. 11 of those individuals are no longer with this company. 3 of them have indicated in exit interviews that your management style was a primary factor in their decision to leave. She looked at him directly. You have delivered results. I want to acknowledge that. Results matter to this organization. But results are not the only thing that matters to this organization. The way we treat people, when we believe no one important is watching, that is our actual culture, not the values on the wall, not the language in the employee handbook. What happens in a hallway at 8 a.m. when a manager believes the power is entirely his. It was never entirely yours, Marcus. It was always on loan. And this morning you demonstrated clearly and in front of witnesses that you are not able to hold it the way it was intended to be held. She closed the folder. HR will be in contact regarding the terms of your transition. I want this handled with respect, which is more than was offered to the person you terminated this morning. She stood. Thank you all for being here. Marcus sat in that boardroom for a long time after everyone else had left. The slides he had prepared were still on his laptop, unopened. The story he had told 3 times before lunch played back in his head now, in a different light entirely, and the version of himself in that story, the one who had been so certain, so efficient, so correct, looked nothing like leadership. It looked like a man who had confused the size of his title with the size of his character and found too late that they were not the same thing at all. The changes came quickly, not as punishment. Diana was specific about that. Punishment, she told the board, was not the lesson she wanted this to teach. The lesson she wanted it to teach was structural. Every branch of Whitmore Financial implemented a new onboarding program, one that required every person hired at manager level and above to spend their first week working alongside the operations staff, cleaning, restocking, maintenance, not as humiliation, as orientation. You need to understand what the foundation looks like, Diana said at the all-hands meeting that followed the audit, before you are given the privilege of building on top of it. She also reinstated the 11 people whose exits had been connected to Marcus's tenure, reaching out personally to every one of them. Some came back. Some had moved on to things they preferred. All of them, without exception, were surprised to get the call. I should have called sooner, Diana told the first one. That's on me. Marcus left the company, in the way that exits like his always happen, with a statement about pursuing other opportunities and a LinkedIn update that said nothing and everything at once. He spent a long time in the months that followed thinking about the 43 seconds, whether there was a version of that morning where he had made a different choice, where he had looked at the wet floor and said nothing, or said sorry, or simply walked around it and gone on with his day. The answer was yes. There were dozens of versions of that morning where everything went differently. He had just never considered them because he had never needed to. Until now, there is a version of this story that is simply about karma. A man gets what he deserves. A woman gets what she is owed. The ending is satisfying. We move on. But that is not the version I want to leave you with, because Diana did not do what she did for satisfaction. She didn't design a 3-week audit across 4 branches to catch one manager in one bad moment. She did it because she understood something that gets forgotten inside the architecture of organizations. That culture is not built at the top. It lives in the hallways, in the elevators, in the way someone is spoken to at 8 in the morning, when the only witnesses are people whose names the manager doesn't know. The most powerful person in the room is almost never the loudest. They are the one who has spent the longest watching, learning, building something real, while everyone around them was busy performing. Marcus saw a woman with a mop. He did not see 11 years of work. He did not see the deed to the building. He did not see the notebook with the original business plan, and handwriting that had gotten steadier with every year of practice. He saw what he expected to see, and that is the most expensive mistake person in power can make, expecting to see nothing and being completely wrong. Your character is not who you are when the stakes are high and everyone important is watching. It is who you are. At 8:14 on a Tuesday morning, in a hallway on the 14th floor, when you believe no one who matters is paying attention, someone always is. That was the story of Diana Whitmore and Marcus Reed. If it made you stop and think, even for a moment, leave a comment below. I'd love to know, have you ever been underestimated by someone who didn't bother to look closely? Subscribe to Emberfold Tales for a new story every week. Some loud, some quiet, all of them true, in the ways that matter most.